The opening scene shows Tom Jacobs watching a mysterious and distressed man enter a house late at night. He watches the man point a gun at a woman who cries and apologizes to the man. Jacobs wakes up to a knocking sound. It's an out-of-tune piano. He's greeted by artificial intelligence that requires him to document his memories. He wanders around a plain house, bored. The only distraction he has is talking to the AI, and he requests it to show him another memory. This time, a warm and happy memory. Jacobs lies in bed with a charming woman and gives her a pearl necklace. They sound celebratory, and Jacobs reveals the source of his excitement. His wife is pregnant. He's brought back to reality by his AI. The couple has dinner with a gray-haired man who questions Tom Jacobs about the risks of his technology. The man asks him how to handle false memories, and Tom shows off his expertise with a clear explanation. The man, who seems to be an investor, suggests they use Tom's technology to access and analyze other people's memory. Tom and his wife look annoyed by the proposal. Ultimately, Tom asks to see the offer he was given. At home, the couple argues over whether it would be unethical to give his technology this function. Tom signs off the deal and begins to develop the cutting-edge project. They test and discuss the best way to make the machine work according to the purpose it was given. At home, Tom paints the walls of what seems to be the baby's nursery. The tests on the machine keep going. The investor makes demands, and Tom keeps on briefing him as he dives into his memory. He works tirelessly and doesn't even notice his pregnant wife serving him dinner. The memory he revisits now takes him to a sunny beach, and he watches the couple from the opening scene, having a loving moment. Bluntly, we're taken to a family moment between Tom's wife and their little daughter in a car. Mom and daughter enter a hospital room, and the little girl greets the patient with a drawing. The patient is Tom. He's unconscious. His wife kisses him goodbye. The memory transitions to a dark bedroom, and Tom's wife reveals as she picks up the phone. Tom answers the phone, and we jump to Tom having a heated conversation with his assistant. Going back to Tom's house, he packs the car and kisses his wife goodbye. Tom Jacobs sets off. In a large warehouse that works as his laboratory, Tom discusses some processes with the man who hired him. Cars arrive at the laboratory and get Tom by surprise. He's uncomfortable, and so is his assistant. Tom has a heated argument with his employer regarding the use that has been given to his technology. He's cornered and intimidated by them to access the memory of a criminal called Anthony. Tom Jacobs complies against his will. The men in suits want Tom to access and reveal the criminal's memory to prove how Anthony committed the murder. The procedure begins. Tom and the murderer are put down to sleep so their minds can be accessed. Tom wakes up in a bright room, and the research starts. The images transmitted on the screen come from Tom's mind as he witnessed the criminal's memory. Tom follows the alleged criminal to a bedroom where a woman is found. She runs desperately, but Anthony corners her upstairs. He is enraged. The sweaty and crying woman apologizes, and a gunshot is heard. Anthony has indeed shot her. Tom checks whether the memories he's watching are real or forged. The clever scientists now shrug like a scared child. This is something he has never experienced before and fears for his machine. His employer sounds very satisfied. When it's time to come back, Tom is strangely sent to another memory, a bright and angelical nursery. Tom Jacobs' assistant finds it odd and resets the machine, trying to get him back. Tom is back at Anthony's criminal memory, and that worries his assistant and the man who hired him. Tom commands AI to self-destruct. This is the last resort to reset one's mind back to reality. The criminal, who's now in prison, wakes up as expected. On the other hand, Tom stays in a comatose state. Back in prison, Anthony, now a bit distressed, receives a visit from his father, who sounds very sick of it. He gives Anthony a box with old things from their garage. Anthony tells his father he's not using drugs anymore, but his empty and cold eyes tell him otherwise. Anthony's father is in complete disbelief at his son's recovery. Tom keeps traveling in Anthony's mind and goes back to his childhood. Little Anthony helps his dad fix the car as they listen to the radio. Tom sounds nostalgic as he talks to his AI assistant. Strangely, the child looks back and stares at Tom, but it seems like Tom was delusional. Tom is obsessed now and asks several questions to the AI assistant. Anthony looks distracted in his cell looking at old photographs. He stops abruptly as he senses something. Tom is in his cell and tries to communicate with him. Anthony comes out of some sort of trance. Tom concludes that they were momentarily connected by an active memory Anthony has about his dog. Tom decides to navigate more deeply into Anthony's mind and memories. He sees Anthony and another man in a car getting ready to rob something. The men cover their faces and follow an old man. That man is Anthony's father, who doesn't bow to the thieves. He attacks one of the criminals with a bat and finds out that it is Anthony who tried to rob him. Anthony is breathless and his dad is disappointed. Anthony discusses his record with Father Riley, who listens cordially. He sounds regretful. Tom follows Anthony in deeper memories and they finally get connected. Anthony is disturbed and runs away from the memory. Seconds later, he finds the courage to go back and face Tom, who tells him his tragic story of how he was trapped in Anthony's memory. Tom's wife, Abby, gets caught up in her head amid a date. The guy isn't happy about it. At home, she answers the phone. Anthony calls her and goes straight to the point. He tells her he's in contact with Tom, but she doesn't believe him. To prove her wrong, he tells her facts about her life that only Tom knew. She is baffled. Tom gives Anthony instructions on how to approach his wife the next time. He tries to build trust between them. Abby confronts Anthony during a visit. She asks more questions about her and Tom's private lives. She wants to believe him. She appeals to his sensitivity and shows Anthony her daughter. Anthony struggles to find Tom in his memories. He needs to answer Abby's question about a nickname Tom gave to her that only he knew. Abby gets her answer and shares that with Tom's assistant. They get in contact with Tom's employer for help, who blackmails Abby. He will help her in return for the machine Tom has designed. Meanwhile, Tom and Anthony get closer. They decide to choose a different memory spot for their rendezvous. Back in prison, Anthony calls his dad to let him know he's leaving for an experiment. His dad gives him a very hard time reminding him of every awful step he has taken in life. Anthony stays on a farm in the middle of nowhere. Tom's assistant and former employer brief Anthony on Tom's rescue. Abby is at the hospital with Tom. Anthony demands something in return. He wants Tom to help him find out the truth about his girlfriend's murder. He assures everyone he is innocent. They continue to discuss Anthony's case in his mind. Tom tries to convince him he's confused and that his memory of killing his girlfriend is real, but Anthony emphasizes he did not kill her. Tom explains to Anthony how suggestions work on the making of false memories and decides to help him. The details in Anthony's memories are the only things that will help him prove his innocence. Tom guides Anthony through his darkest and most traumatizing memory. On the night of Adrian's murder, he remembers his partner in crime knocked him down, but somehow he feels trapped by Tom's questions and decides to run from the farm. He confronts his former partner saying he knows he was at Adriana's house the night she died. He is out of control. Anthony's partner screams he didn't kill her. The figure of a blonde man appears hiding in the corner of the house as he listens to their conversation. His former partner distracts Anthony from the blonde man who carries a gun by planting memories in Anthony's mind. Anthony ends up being shot by the man. Anthony doesn't settle and manages to shoot both men in the apartment. His former partner in crime runs away. Tom becomes desperate as he realizes Anthony is losing consciousness, but he finds the strength to drive to Tom's house. Abby knows how to operate Tom's machine and will try to finally bring her husband back. The memory that will bring Tom back is the one from prison, the one where he sees his little daughter. Tom rushes to find the memory in Anthony's mind and finds him seconds before Anthony fades from the memory. Anthony is in his final moments. He can't keep his eyes and mind awake anymore. Abby is utterly scared. Tom and Abby's daughter watches Anthony's final breath and sees her mother desperate, afraid that she will never see her husband conscious again. She screams at the top of her lungs. She's helpless. Abby's voice is heard again. This time she sounds calmer and loving. She calls for Tom again. Tom Jacobs wakes up in a white, bright bedroom completely disoriented and exhausted from going back and forth in Anthony's mind. He feels the presence of his wife with him. Maybe it's another memory he is experiencing. Maybe it's not real. He starts to get back to his senses as he feels a tiny hand holding him. That's his little girl. He jumps to another scene, another memory maybe. He is at a bar staring at his glass of whiskey and talking about his father. There are transitions between the bar scene and another scene, where he teaches his daughter to play the piano. At this point, it is hard to tell what is real. Tom Jacobs has a score to settle with Anthony's father. He arrives at his house and Anthony's father tells him a confusing story about Anthony's dog. Tom gets unsettled and his mind travels at light speed to moments of his life he probably regrets. He remembers having the restaurant conversation with the man that became his employer. That memory crossed with some of Anthony's earliest memories. Tom keeps talking to himself and thinking out loud about his theories. He remembers that there are tricky ways to brainwash someone and make them believe in anything. Anthony's upbringing was not a healthy one. He used to be surrounded by mean people. Tom asked himself how effective was to make Anthony believe he killed his girlfriend after learning that Anthony had always been manipulated and put down by the people he trusted the most. Tom travels back to Anthony's memory of the night of Adrian's murder. This time, he sees that she is the one holding the gun, and Anthony watched her shooting herself. Everything is clear now. Tom confronts Anthony's father. He knows he was the one who tipped the police anonymously. The old man pretends to be offended, but can't hold the facade. He tells Tom he did it to save Anthony from the way he was living. Tom keeps talking to himself in disbelief about Anthony's dad. He sees his former employer launching a project using Tom's machine and asks the bartender how Anthony's dad could do that to him. The last thing he hears is that sometimes all one needs is to listen to a familiar voice. That is the voice of his AI that had been with him every step of the way.